What it do, YouTube? I am your boy, Tony Vogue, the E-Boy Zombie Slayer, and conspiracy theory reactor extraordinaire. Now, there's a conspiracy theory that the Middle Ages never, in fact, happened, and they are a conspiracy by powerful people to rearrange important historic facts and keep y'all in the dark.
The Middle Ages did not happen, is what I would say if I was Heribert Elig, a historian who proposed that the years 614 through 911 just didn't happen. Try as much as you like to never forget those years, they just never happened. End of story.
Damn.
And to be honest, I believe his theory.
Why did he pick those specific years for never happening and all of the years between them, I guess?
The years 614 through 911 probably didn't happen. I mean, were you there? Were you alive in any capacity during any of the years between 614 and 911?
Not at all.
I didn't think so. Your evidence that these years happened is all stuff that other people showed you, like history books and photographs and Wikipedia, but you weren't there. And I'm mostly confident that no one alive today could say that they were there. So in terms of first-hand sources, we really have zero. But there's interviews with Elig dating back to as recently as 2012.
Documentary footage.
And, I mean, he's the guy who stole $640 million in bearer bonds from Nakatomi Plaza, so of course I believe him. He's
that was Hans Gruber. Fail.
Rich as hell. Now don't take my word for it. Heribert has written a handful of books on the subject, including the insightful, witty, and classically charming Das Erfundun Mittelalter de Großzeitfälschung de Grest. I forgot that he's German, and I don't speak German, but thanks to Google Translate, I can put the book's titles in American and read it properly. Translated as Sama sa kati zuluia udangani fu. Fuck me, I accidentally put it to Swahili. It's not important. What does matter is Heribert wrote like 3 or 4 books on this topic, so let's talk about the topic already. Heribert labels his proclamations as the phantom time hypothesis, which I swear to you,
and that's what it's called, the phantom time hypothesis.
Is not the subtitle of the next Doctor Strange movie. Phantom time hypothesis says that about 300 years of history were completely made up thanks to a conspiracy by the Holy Roman Emperor Otto III, Pope Sylvester II, Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII, and ancient historical Grand Punch King Flexus Bigarmicus. Historians usually don't include that last one because he's far too awesome to exist in our dimension's primary historical timeline, but basically what happened is those 3 or 4 big leaders with numbers in their names instead of actual names because they're robots or some shit wanted to exist in the year 1000 AD because doing so would help legitimize Otto's claim to the Holy Roman Empire throne. There's also some talks that they did this because they all giggled like schoolgirls and thinking being alive during the year 1000 would be super cool and shit that they could tell their friends. Let me tell you something though. As someone who was alive during the year 2000, I am objectively twice as cool as any of them, and existing during a millennium is overrated.
We are majorly cooler.
Ask anyone in my audience who's 21 or younger. They got to grow up with cool shit I didn't have as a kid, like social media and Discord, while I just had to settle for growing up with actual meaningful human connections and friendships. Now, Elig is a historian, which from this wacky Uncanny Valley WikiHow article I discovered basically means you need a master's degree or PhD in a historical field to be labeled as such. So he's not just some conspiracy theorist talking out of his ass. Then again, the man who proposed the theory that we should blow up the moon was a college professor, so either way, being a historian
let's blow up the moon.
Just make up shit about history.
Do you remember when Call of Duty did that? I just had to go back to that. I am your boy Tony Vogue, the E-Boy Zombie Slayer. Please subscribe. Moon, one of the greatest maps of all time.
Despite the fact that history is written by people who are bound to exaggerate and make mistakes, so there's probably shitloads of anecdotes and other things in history as we know it that never fucking happened, but the point is, Elig does propose a good handful of evidence to support his theory. Number 1, there's not much archaeological evidence tracing back to between 614 and 911. Knowing Elig's scientific genius, he probably qualifies solid archaeological evidence as things he dug up personally in his backyard after playing in the sandbox for a few hours, and because that predictably hasn't led him to discovering any ancient artifacts, he ruled that there's a lack of evidence. But let's roll with this claim. Secondly, look at all the Roman architecture everywhere. You see those white columns? It's totally old as shit, bro, I swear. That stuff's gotta have been made back in like the Roman times, because it's like all Roman and architecture and stuff, and it's still around, it's still here, so it can't be that old, bro, it's bogus. Third, there was a lot of calendar fuckery going on at that time, as humans tried to specifically figure out just how we should count our days, since the mathematics behind space stuff is actually pretty complicated. Basically, the Gregorian calendar, which is the one that we use today, stepped into the scene in 1582. Now, there's a lot of math in this part. Math is dumb as hell, so really all you need to know is that astronomers and mathematicians had to calculate just how much time they'd have to adjust on the dates to switch from the old Julian calendar to the current day Gregorian calendar, while keeping our measurement of time still accurate. They calculated that they need to shift things around by about 13 days to get everything to line up accurately with the sun's real-world actual movement. But E-League says they fucked up, and they should have only compensated by 10 days. If you run the numbers on the time between the calendars using E-League's proposed 10-day compensation instead of the 13 that we went with, there's roughly 300 years missing from the new calendar that's unaccounted for. Hence, the Middle Ages never fucking happened. Which, yeah, I mean, that's totally true. Because again, you weren't there. Were you?
Well, shit. This video gave me a headache, but it sounds like the Middle Ages never happened.
No! You can't fucking refute this. You weren't there. Okay, now let's talk about why Heribert E-League is a fucking idiot. See, the entire point of a calendar is to make the heavens bend to our will. It's to explain to our stupid caveman brains how the planets and stars move in a way that our no-algebra understanding asses would understand. And it turns out this shit is pretty dang predictable. Scientists can nail with pinpoint precision when we'll all experience certain phenomena, such as solar eclipses. And there just so happened to be a major solar eclipse written about by scholars in sometime around 600 AD. Which lines up perfectly with our current solar eclipse projections. If there's 300 years missing in that time period, then our entire solar model is totally wrong, and yet it's not. So E-League is wrong. And I can say that without fear, because I'm pretty sure he doesn't speak English, so he'll have no way of knowing that I'm calling him a moron. There's also other boring reasons why E-League is wrong, such as the calendar math actually does work out and E-League got the dates confused. There's archaeological remains that are confirmed accurate and consistent. There's plenty of ways to hit—
Well, I mean, that really shot down this conspiracy theory, but he could be a shill.
Historically date things that are accurate,
despite
how much of a pissy pants E-League wants to be about them not working. But my favorite counter argument, and one probably all of you out there watching have figured out by just putting the pieces together, is, well, it's just the simple question of, well, I don't know. What about the entire rest of the fucking world? If the years 614 to 911 never existed, that means everything that happened during those years could not have happened. Most of the history of Anglo-Saxon England, most of the Byzantine Empire's history, the entire life of Muhammad and the Islamic conquests of the era, and let's not forget the entire Tang dynasty of China. So what's more likely? None of these earth-shaping events ever happened, or some German historian got his math wrong. Now, personally, I'm still siding with Dr. E-League because, once again, you weren't there.
No, you weren't, bro.
We cannot—
We can't. We really can't.
Personally refute his assertions because he was there. And that's how he knows. He mentioned that they rely too much on written sources, but he wrote books on this phenomenon because he was there. He wrote them from the first-person perspective. After all, he was born in 1947?
Well, shit.
Okay, never mind. He's a fucking moron.
Wilhelm Strauss.
It begins.
All right. Well, I am your boy Tony Vogue, the E-Boy Zombie Slayer. And that was the phantom time hypothesis, deconstructed and refuted. That was a pretty cool video. Maybe we'll react to more by this channel. Please drop me a thumbs up, drop me a comment, drop me a subscribe. Tell me what you thought of this content. Staying bringing you more. I am your boy Tony Vogue, the E-Boy Zombie Slayer. Tops.